Hi everyone, welcome back to the Time Back Project, where we talk about how to work smarter, not harder, and how to reclaim the one thing you can never get back, your time. Today, I want to share something that completely changed the way I think about productivity, business, and honestly, life. It's something I call the lazy plan. And yes, the name is intentionally ironic because while it might sound lazy, it's actually one of the most effective and freeing approaches I've ever tried. You've probably seen all the New Year, New Me plans out there. People setting ambitious goals, building complex systems, downloading new productivity apps. But this year, I didn't do any of that. I made a plan to do less, and that one decision, to work less but think better, has completely transformed how I run my business and how I live my life. So today I'm going to tell you exactly what my lazy plan is, how it works, why it's not lazy at all, and why, if you care about your sanity and your time, you might want to try it too. Let me start with a confession. A few months ago, I was overwhelmed, not in a dramatic, I can't take it anymore way, just quietly drowning in small things. You know that kind of week when every day is filled with tasks and you finish the day feeling like you worked non-stop, but you didn't actually achieve anything? That was me. Emails, calendar updates, messages, a dozen tiny approvals, fixing details that probably didn't even matter. And yet, every single one of them needed me. I remember sitting at my desk late one Friday night and thinking, how did I become the assistant of my own business? It wasn't burnout, it was something sneakier, busy work addiction, that invisible cycle where you start believing your value comes from how full your day looks. So I decided to stop. I opened a blank page and wrote down everything I'd done that week, every single thing. Then I grabbed three markers and used what I now call the color test. Red, things that only I could do, strategy, creative direction, key decisions. Yellow, things that partly involved me, reviews, approvals, oversight. Green, things that didn't need me at all. When I stepped back and looked at that paper, about 80% of my week was green. 80%. That's when I realized I didn't need a better plan. I needed a lazier one. Here's what I did next. I took every green task on that list: booking travel, scheduling meetings, sending invoices, replying to template emails, posting social updates, exporting data, and I delegated it. Yes, all of it. I stopped micromanaging. I stopped double checking. I stopped saying it'll be faster if I just do it myself. And that single shift unlocks something huge: mental space. Because when your brain isn't juggling 50 tiny things, it starts doing what it's meant to do, thinking strategically. Within a week, I started seeing patterns I'd been blind to for months. I realized where my time was actually producing value and where it was just noise. My days felt lighter. I started sleeping better, and I finally had time to think, not just react. Here's the truth: most people don't need more productivity tools. They need to stop mistaking motion for progress. We think we're getting things done because we're busy, but often we're just moving paper around. We glorify the hustle, but we forget that hustle without direction is just chaos with branding. The lazy plan flips that idea completely. It says, if doing less gives you better results, why are you still doing more? And before you say, but I can't delegate everything, let me tell you something. You don't have to. You just have to stop treating every task as sacred. If someone else can do it 80% as well as you, let them. That extra 20% of perfection you're holding onto, it's costing you hours, energy, and sanity. After I created my lazy plan, my schedule started changing in small but powerful ways. Mornings became calmer. No more racing through messages before breakfast. I had time to actually think about strategy, to plan creative projects, to focus on growth instead of maintenance. I also noticed something fascinating. The quality of my decisions went up. Because when your brain isn't fried from micro decisions, you suddenly make better macro ones. It's like zooming out from a map. When you're buried in the details, you forget where you're even going. But when you zoom out, when you give yourself perspective, the path becomes clear again. That's what the lazy plan does. It zooms you out. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, sounds great, but how do I actually start? Here's my simple three-step version. Step 1: audit your week. Write down everything you do, not what you planned, but what you actually did. You'll be surprised by how many quick 5-minute tasks secretly consume hours. Step 2: do the color test. Red for only me, yellow for partly me, green for someone else could handle this. Step 3: go green. one task at a time. Start small. Pick just one green task this week and delegate it. Then next week, add another and another. Pretty soon, you'll notice your brain and your calendar start to breathe again. Now, let's talk about the emotional side of this, because delegation isn't really about tasks, it's about control. Most of us hold on to things not because we enjoy them, but because they make us feel safe. We think if I'm involved, nothing can go wrong. But here's the twist. When you are the only one involved, you are the risk. If your business collapses the moment you step away, then it's not a business, it's a dependency. That realization was hard for me. I used to wear doing everything myself like a badge of honor. But now I see it for what it is, a bottleneck disguised as dedication. Letting go didn't make me less responsible. It made me more effective, because now when I show up, I'm present. I'm not split between 10 things. I'm focused on one. And that's when your best work finally happens. The funny thing is, after I started living this way, people around me began noticing the difference. They'd ask, "You seem calmer. Your content feels sharper. Your energy's different. What changed?" And I'd smile and say, "I got lazy." Of course, that's not entirely true, but it always starts a great conversation, because lazy in my world doesn't mean careless or unmotivated. It means intentional. It means choosing effort wisely. It means saying no to the noise so you can say yes to what matters. Now, let's go a bit deeper. There's a concept I love called slow productivity. It's the idea that working slower but with focus actually produces better results. Because when you give yourself space to think, you start connecting dots others miss. That's what my lazy plan gave me. Permission to slow down without feeling guilty, to stop equating rest with weakness, to realize that sometimes the smartest people in the room are the ones doing the least, because they've already built systems that work for them. We live in a culture that celebrates exhaustion. We brag about being booked solid. But nobody gives awards for being calm, strategic, or well rested, even though that's what actually sustains success. The lazy plan is my quiet rebellion against that. It's not about working less just to relax, it's about creating the mental margin to make your best ideas real. And let me tell you something interesting. When you stop doing everything yourself, people around you rise to the occasion. Your team starts thinking more independently, your assistant becomes proactive instead of reactive, your collaborators feel trusted, so they start owning outcomes, not just tasks. It's like giving everyone room to breathe, and suddenly the entire system becomes more alive. That's what lazy leadership really looks like, not absence, but clarity. Of course, there were mistakes along the way. Delegating isn't always perfect. Sometimes things come back wrong. Sometimes communication fails. And yes, sometimes it would have been faster if I'd just done it myself. But every one of those moments was a long-term investment, because every time something didn't go as planned, we refined the process, we documented steps, we improved systems. And over time, my role shifted from doing to designing. That's the hidden power of delegation. It forces you to think about your workflow as a structure, not as a storm of daily chaos. There's also a deeper emotional reward. When you delegate effectively, you stop being at war with time. You stop waking up already behind. You start feeling ahead again. And that feeling, waking up with space to think, that's what I call real freedom. Because productivity is not about how much you can squeeze into a day. It's about how much space you can create inside it. That's the paradox of the lazy plan. Doing less but achieving more. Working fewer hours but making better decisions. Having fewer tasks but creating more impact. It's not magic, it's just math, plus courage. And now I want you to think about this. If your time is your most valuable currency, why are you spending it on things that don't grow in value? Money regenerates, energy regenerates, but time doesn't. Every task you touch personally that didn't need you is a small withdrawal from the account of your potential. So protect it, respect it, invest it where it multiplies, not where it drains. That's what lazy planning is really about. Here's my challenge for you this week. Pick just one thing that's been cluttering your days. Maybe it's scheduling, inbox replies, editing, or managing a small process. Write down how you do it, record a short screen video, and hand it off. Then, instead of filling that time immediately with new work, do nothing. Let yourself feel what it's like to have an hour of mental space, because that hour is where your next big idea will probably be born. Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Your time is the only currency that doesn't renew. Every moment you give to something meaningless is a moment you'll never get back. And maybe the lazy ones, the ones who plan less, delegate more, rest deeply, and think clearly, maybe they're not lazy at all. Maybe they've just understood the real economics of life. If this idea resonated with you, if you're tired of being busy and ready to start being free, then welcome. You're already part of the mindset behind the Time Back Project. Subscribe to the channel because that's what we explore here. Not hustle, not burnout, but the art of winning your time back. Together, we're rewriting what productivity means, from working harder to working wiser. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the smartest plan you can make is the laziest one.